heavy load, sometimes a worried mind. The cares of life, they're gonna burst like bubbles. One morning we're gonna leave it all behind. I'll leave it all behind.
Come on, man.
Some happy day.
Look at this, John. The slow run. Oh, God.
Hey, look. That's how you get that.
Yes. Yes, brothers and sisters.
Now you don't have the one I wanted queued up, do you?
No, we'll get to that, definitely.
No, it's perfect for right now. It's the season for that. It's Jay Witt, you let me down.
You might have to, let me see, I might be able to pull it up.
Yeah, we're in
I'll
season.
text you. Because you might have to pull it up.
Okay.
Hey, let me see. I think I got it.
Okay.
Well, let's not forget my intro. You are now listening to The Hour of Power, featuring your host, Brady Goodwin, and his trusty sidekick, Jay Witt. That's right. This is The Hour of Power.
Welcome.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because we got Shane Almgren is waiting in the waiting room. I want to get him in here. Can we just do one writing tonight?
Yeah, sure. We'll do one writing tonight.
Okay. And we got some super chats to read too, but I want to get Shane in here.
Yeah, and it's a day that's jam packed. Like that's when y'all want to get when we got a jam packed day. But thank you. We do appreciate all of the gifts, and
Indeed.
we're gonna acknowledge all of your statements just in a moment. Okay, thanks a lot, Moe and Matthew Williams. Our quotes we're in the writings, and the writings for today, or there's a writing. The writings, by the way, are our aphorisms. We read aphorisms from Aphorist every week. And today's aphorist is Edward Bulwer Lytton. He was born in the United Kingdom in 1803. I know, Brady, you're cringing right as we speak. And he died in 1873. He says, "You believe that easily which you hope for earnestly." I'll say it again.
Yeah.
You believe that easily which you hope for earnestly. What say you, Brady?
It instantly reminds me of something an apologist, a former professor of mine, said to me, since our class, as he was teaching apologetics. He said, before people come to believe something, they often find themselves hoping that it's true before they come to believe it. So he said the goal in your evangelism, even in your apologetics, is to get people to hope that the gospel is true. Because once you get them hoping that it's true, the belief is the next step because they want it to be true. So it makes me question the things I believe, because if I want them to be true, I have not good motivations for believing them. Well, it's not good. I have questionable motivations for believing them.
We've spoken about this before, and the way I often say it is if you find yourself dealing with the thing where you want a certain outcome or something to be true, that's the thing that you should heighten you should turn up the dial of your skepticism, just because a little will go a long way for you to believe that, if that's the thing that you want to believe happens. So for instance, let's just make that a little more practical for those who might be getting lost in the weeds here. If you don't want to die, you should maybe turn up the dial on your skepticism on beliefs that come along that sort of validate that belief that you might, or that wish and the desire that you might have. Anything that comes along and says, "Hey, we got a system in which you're going to live forever," because you know that you're already kind of biased toward wanting to live forever. You should really turn up your powers. Why should you do that? Well, because you know that that's basically a weakness that you have. It's something that you desire to have happen already. So you know that you're it's like those who will want to believe that they're aliens. You find when they get these UFO sightings that their bar for believing the evidence is lowered extremely, so much so that they could just see a dot on the screen and they're like, "All right, I'm convinced it's a UFO." Well, why? That's because they want to believe in this paranormal thing, you know. So yeah,
good, healthy skepticism means you're also skepticism of yourself, skeptical of yourself, not just of competing claims that you don't want to be true. It's easy to be skeptical of those. Like me, when I was skeptical of evolution as a Christian, it's easy to be skeptical of things that you don't want to be true. It's harder to be skeptical of things that you want to be true, which means it's all the more reason why you probably should be. So
yeah, and
yeah.
I believe it was C.S. Lewis who actually turns this advice we're giving you, he turns that on its head. He says, the longings that you have are reflective. I believe it was C.S. Lewis.
Yes. If you find yourself wanting eternal life, if you find yourself wanting things that are too grand for this world, seemingly, it probably means you weren't made for this world but for another world. So your wants and desires become the undergirding of all the things that you ever believe or want to believe in the first place.
That's the God-shaped hole theory.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, hopefully that's meaningful, helpful to somebody out there to think through some things. I want to go ahead and get Shane Almgren up in here. So please welcome to Ichabod, to Exit Strategy. Welcome back, I should say, Shane Almgren. Hopefully he hasn't nodded off or stepped away for too long, because I had him in the makeshift waiting room. He was in the green room. So Shane, if your computer nearby, there he is.
I'm here.
What's
Thanks.
up, my man?
Hey,
Thanks
Shane,
for
how
waking
are
me
you?
up. Good. How you doing? Good to be here with you guys.
Hey, man, it's been a good minute. I think it's
Good
been
to see
almost
you.
a year or maybe more.
It's like a year. Yeah. This is our
Okay.
annual tradition now, Brady.
I like it. Let's at least do that annually. And I get to introduce you to Jay Witt, even though he's in hiding. So it's sort of an introduction.
Yeah,
Are we
in
allowed
the
to
witness protection
the
program?
witness protection? Gotcha. I love it.
What were you saying, Shane?
I was just trying to figure out if we should be dropping his name if he's in the witness protection, but that is the witness protection name.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Hey, real quick, you're working. Can I say what you're working on or no?
Sure.
You're working on a new book.
Yes.
Last time you came on to discuss your book, which we'll talk about in a second, but you're working on a new book. Can you tell us about that?
The new book, the name of it is Desperados, and the very quick summary is, my parents were missionaries when I was growing up and had spent several years in Asia, China, Thailand, Hong Kong, Malaysia. And when we got back in 1990, my mom believed her mission, her divine mission that God had given her, was to organize the first ever Christian concert to China, which is impossible. They don't do secular concerts in China. I think Wham was the only major like rock show, George Michael in 1984. And then, so no one else had come in. You can't do anything Christian, but my mom was going to do it. She spent 10 years putting it together, had contacted this group, this award-winning group from Australia called the Newsboys, who had agreed to go. China had agreed to accept them, partly from a little subterfuge on my mom's part, because China wanted to screen all of the lyrics that came in.
Okay.
And the Newsboys had sent my mom their catalog, and she went through it and picked out all the ones that were innocuous, that were not real Jesus God heavy, and sent that to the communists, and they approved it. So China didn't know a Christian band was coming, and the Newsboys didn't know that China didn't know they were a Christian band showing up. But through a scheduling conflict about 11 days before the show in October 99, the Newsboys had to bail out. They had to cancel. and the concert was booked, promoted, the hotel was there, airfare was there, tickets were sold. The Chinese were expecting a concert. So my mom, living down in Florida, my mom's in Pittsburgh. She calls me up in the middle of the night. She goes, Newsboys backed out. 11 days to first show. I got a lead singer, bass player, and drummer here in Pittsburgh. You're on keys. Find a guitarist that has a passport. We're going to China in a week, and we're not going to tell him we're not the Newsboys. So
This
we
sounds
had to,
this sounds like a nightmare.
it was the book reads like a comedy. It was
Okay.
because we were one of the guys, the older guy at the time was 40, and he was a professional, semi-professional musician that, a
Right.
utility player that could play anything.
And you're a musician, so it's not like she got non-musicians to come.
Right. We had just
Yeah.
we're greenhorns, like playing a band. One kid was a church drummer, never played anywhere. One of the guys only played in like coffee shops. And so we're trying to learn these commercial songs in just under a week, and then go over there and pretend to be rock stars. And then after the crazy thing was, after, because we didn't know if we were going to get arrested, if they were going to pull the plug as soon as they heard the lyrics. And I don't think they ever really knew what we were singing about. But after the last show, we got back to our hotel. They put us up in this huge 5-star fancy hotel, and we turned on the TV, and every single television station in China was rebroadcasting our show from that night.
The Newsboys in China.
So it went out to like 1 billion people. I think it was like the largest televised concert since Live Aid.
You might be responsible for the gospel reaching China.
Maybe so. So, and I just finished the first draft on that, giving it
Okay.
a second pass through right now. So that's what I'm working on.
Okay. I'm just curious before we dive into what we're going to talk about. You deconverted from Christianity how long ago?
About 20 years was when it all started.
Okay. So as you're writing this book now, does do your lenses as a deconvert, are you putting that on the story at all, or is it just the story about that event from your life?
You know what? Because there were so many church friends and family, like I wanted to be as polite and respectful of the faith that I grew up on as I could.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything that could be seen as inflammatory or antagonistic. I do challenge my mom a little bit, because everything was a divine appointment every step of the way. And I kind of make a distinction. Some people, if you believe in the law of attraction or the power of positive thinking, or if you come from a different background belief system, this phenomenon, we don't have a monopoly on this phenomenon. It happens to people no matter what you're doing, even if you're in pursuit of things that are not godly. And so I kind of offered an alternate explanation while still being respectful.
Okay. Well, let's try to keep that same energy, and maybe we will be a little, I don't know about antagonistic, but we won't have to play entirely too nice tonight, because what we're going to do is
gloves off for this one.
Yeah, we're going to look at some other things that people are saying. This is a divine appointment. This is not coincidence. This is God actually got involved in the affairs of, I don't even know if we could say humanity. This is God got involved in the affairs of the universe.
At least the solar system.
At least the solar system. But no, not just the solar system, because we had some things happen, not just in the heavens, but in the earth the last couple of days.
Yes, that's true.
Right. And so people
There's something to be said for, like, an eclipse is a coincidence, right? The moon just happens to cover this.
Right.
So, there is a bit of it is literally a coincidence,
Right. Yeah. And earthquakes happen. So in the last week or so, people have gotten up in arms about, hey, I think God is speaking to us. God is saying something. God is giving us signs. And I don't know. I heard the people talking about the eclipse, and I knew they were going to try to use that. And I wasn't even going to mention the eclipse. But it just so happened that several days before the eclipse, some other things happened that made certain folk just say, this means something. Right. God is doing something, must be, because that can't be a coincidence. So I figured I would bring Shane back, because Shane, you wrote the book, Conspiracy Christianity, which is on Amazon right now. And you talked about, especially evangelicals, right?
Yes.
Something about evangelical Christians that you said there's 7 things that prime evangelical Christians to believe in conspiracies.
Yeah, it's thought training, the very
Mm.
regimented thought training that we're brought through, that it's what we're required to embrace in order to believe the things that we're being taught in the church. And then when we get out in the world,
Right.
we don't really know how to turn it off.
Right. We've been trained, conditioned to have, sort of like we were just talking about a minute ago, Jay, right? We've been conditioned to have very poor critical thinking skills. Because to believe the things that we believe as Christians, you can't be too critical. We're going to get to Peter Enns later on tonight, who is cautioning Christians about having a critical mind. Throw that out.
Yeah. Was it in Revelations 21:8, he says, the fearful and the unbelieving
Yeah.
are going to all have their part in the lake, which burneth with fire and brimstone. So to be unbelieving, but mind you, is somewhat of a synonym for being skeptical.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not easily, convinced,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Now I wonder
seen as
though,
a vice.
in the New Testament, I don't think unbelief is what we would say it is. For them, unbelief in the New Testament, it seems to be more, you have every reason to believe, especially if you think about Paul, right? You're suppressing this knowledge. So it's not like what we're saying, we're unconvinced by your quote unquote evidence. In the New Testament, it is, you have every reason to believe. It's not that you can't, it's that you won't. So it's not really skepticism, even though we would come to it and say, no, this
It's
is just,
rebellion.
yeah,
We're in
it's rebellion in
rebellion.
the New Testament. Yeah, your
But yeah,
rebellious heart.
the only thing I will push back and say is that what they deem to be all the reason in the world to believe is not the same as what we would deem to be all
Right,
the
of
reason in the
course.
world.
Of course, yeah.
So
They're
if
taking for
you get
granted
to
that,
establish,
I'm sorry, they're taking
yeah,
for
they're
granted
taking
that you
for
don't have
granted,
any reason to disbelieve.
yeah. So I mean, from their perspective, their testimony is sufficient enough reason for you to believe. And I'm looking at it and saying that, well, that's not. Just the fact that you wrote it down doesn't mean that it's accurate,
Yeah.
So
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to pull up, and I warned people on Facebook. I'm going to try not to show names, but some of these screenshots have names. You're going to see some people that you might recognize saying some things that may cause you a little bit of like, wow, even you. But I've got about, I don't even know if we'll get to them all, because some of our commentary is going to be the same, but I think they just kind of show this is what the believer ends up having to contend with, having to, like Shane said, if you allow yourself to be trained to see the world this way, you're sort of setting yourself up for this easy believism, and you're setting yourself up to just be almost like a sitting duck for any new claim. You have to take that claim as potentially something you need to pay attention to, because who knows, this could be God doing that end time thing. So I'm just pulling them all up on the screen here before
So
I
we're going to look
share.
at each one and then just discuss them.
Yeah, we don't need to discuss some of them too much, but if anything jumps out to you that you feel like, nah, that deserves more commentary. And the goal here is to help somebody,
Okay.
who is not used to critical thinking, and maybe somebody who maybe they're the ones who posted this. But what's wrong with this kind of thinking is sort of what I'm looking to get out of us.
Okay.
What's dangerous? Maybe we don't even want to say wrong. What's dangerous about this kind of thinking? All right.
Not helpful, not beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Sounds fun.
There's no particular order here. Like I said, I got like 13 of them and one video. So I'm trying to think, where do I want to start? All right. I'm just going to start sharing. We can just go in. I'm sorry. I'm reading them to try to figure out, is this where I want to start? Sorry. Let's go. There's so many, guys. I'm sorry. You can't see what I'm looking at when I'm about to put up on the screen now.
Oh, the suspense is building.
All right, here goes the first one. Uh, all right, so you see this here.
There we go. Yep.
There's no personal animus. I don't have any alt against any of these people. These are just, you know, people on Facebook. Somebody says, earthquake today, 3 more days, the eclipse. God has been speaking to his people. Keep your eyes open. And you see
No,
my
actually, you
response.
shouldn't keep them open for the eclipse.
Did either of you see the eclipse?
We had a lot of cloud cover here in Nashville, and it broke for a couple seconds, a couple times, so we didn't get a good straight on view. So we didn't get the message because of the clouds.
So God was speaking, and somehow he got muffled.
He got muffled.
Interesting.
Earmuffs.
Jay Witt, did you see the eclipse?
I saw it barely. I saw it through my phone, actually. I didn't go out and prepare adequately, but we didn't get hit with the full orb darkness that, you know, they got in certain areas.
I was out at a shopping center with my mother. We took my mother to Costco and had forgotten about it. And then somebody was putting their groceries in the car at the same time we were. And they said, oh, look up. And at that very moment, because it was cloudy, we all thought, what's the use of looking up anyway? Because the clouds are here. He said, look up. And the clouds actually broke at that moment. And we actually could see the moon passing right in front of the sun. It was I was like, oh, cool. That's what they've been talking about. And then I just went back to put groceries in the car. And
so if you had looked up a second earlier or later, you wouldn't have seen the break in the cloud. So that itself was a sign.
Yeah, I think that was God moving at that moment. This guy didn't know us. And then he happened to say, hey, look, it's happening. And we looked up and, oh, wow, we got a chance to see it. So
I think that's God's endorsement of Costco over Sam's Club.
it's something. But if you had seen this, if one of your Christian friends, family members, if you were still a believer, maybe, and somebody said this to you here, earthquake today, 3 more days, eclipse. God has been speaking to his people. Would you have amen that? Would you have thought, must be?
Yeah, because that's you get the message and you don't challenge it. You don't fact check it. You don't verify it. You just, ooh, that sounds really good. I actually, because it started like 2 weeks ago, it was actually, you know what event it was? It was when the ship hit the bridge and the bridge came down. That had people on notice.
I forgot to grab a screenshot. Yes, go ahead.
So there was the bridge, then the earthquake, the one I think that hit New Jersey. And then they've been talking about the eclipse for a while. And I just had to go and look up like how frequent are earthquakes. And the National Earthquake Information Center, which tracks them all over the earth, says there's about 20,000 a year. There's 55 a day around the globe. So that there is an earthquake in alignment with something,
right?
The odds of that happening are like 100%.
Okay. Because of how often they happen, they're going to happen next to other things.
Correct.
Well, this also goes back to what we were saying about the coach. It just speaks to your narcissism and myopia. If when it happens in your neighborhood, you think that this is cosmic, you know?
Right.
If we're getting 55 of them a day all around the globe, and you don't mind 54 of them, you have like God's not particularly saying anything with 54 of them, but the one that happens that's near you, then suddenly it's it's something cosmic going on. That's just pure narcissism is what it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
In 2026, there's going to be a full solar in the southern hemisphere. And there's probably going to be 55 earthquakes that day too. So I guess down there in Argentina, they can start rapturing themselves.
And I said basically what you guys just said, really, what about every other earthquake in every other part of the world, every past eclipse? We don't really think about those things, but it's worth thinking about because, like Jake said, it's narcissism. To think that because you're seeing it, now it means something. Let me see here. Which one?
It's
next?
like, I used to really hate the statement people made where they would say people die in threes. I'm like, no, they don't. They die in they die by the tens of thousands.
Right.
But you just happen to know three people who died that were in the news or something. So how narcissistic can you be
Right.
to make a statement
Yeah.
about people dying in threes? This is ridiculous.
Yeah. The things that you think are significant do not in any way tell you what is significant just because it matters to you. So the one somebody said, get right, church, 4.8, Boston, Philly, Delaware, all these places felt this. So they said, get right, church. This is like God putting the fear of God in people. Did you guys feel the earthquake? Shane, where are you at? I forget.
Nashville.
Oh, so you didn't feel this at all.
I didn't feel it at
So
all.
then you don't need to get right.
No, and it's only
Yeah.
a 4.8 in the thing too. The National Earthquake Information Center, what they don't even keep stats on quakes under a 5 because they're so frequent. So they'll tell you how many
Yeah.
happen in the 6, 7 range. So this isn't even significant. I mean, this is like sneezing. That's how common this is.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stay not right.
If you're part of the church in any other part of the world, do you not need to get right because you didn't feel this earthquake? Like,
Perhaps you need to get left.
well, you are
Get
going to get
left,
left
church.
if you're not part
Get
of
right or
the,
get left. Yeah.
yeah.
But I'm more confused by his emojis. Like I don't know what's going on there. You got the curious emoji, then you have like a sad face, and then like a smiling halo. I'm not sure what this is supposed to mean.
Here's part of
Well,
the danger of thinking this way. Well, go ahead, Shane.
I was going to say the one thing that this one got right is they did direct it at the church. Because usually when people need to repent, it's always somebody else that needs to do the repenting.
Shane, I had a screenshot of yours. Everybody who was talking about these events, I screenshotted them. I have a screenshot of yours, but I don't have it in this montage here. You actually said this. You made a statement on Facebook where you said, why is it that the people who always see these signs think the repentance is for somebody else?
Right.
You're the one seeing the sign. Why don't you think the repentance is for you? I
Yeah,
thought that was a great statement.
If you have to magically decipher the sign, maybe the sign was for you. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Because we don't get it. You know what I mean? We don't hear God in this earthquake. You do. Why aren't you taking the star? So you said this person, they did focus it where it needs to be on the people who believe this stuff. Yeah. I was going to say,
I think it's.
let me say this real quick. Part of the dangers of thinking this way is, and this will apply to all the memes I'm going to show. So this 4.8 earthquake happens and you find yourself saying, I better get right because look, God's shaking the earth. And then 5 more years go by. And do you ever like find yourself saying, well, damn, I got right. What gives? Like, even the psalmist said, have I kept my way pure in vain? Like, you're playing musical chairs and you see the person who's playing the music get closer to the button to hit stop.
You start boxing out.
Yeah, you're boxing out people. You got your hand on the chair because you want to be able to, and then you realize, oh, that person was just stretching. They weren't about to hit the button. Like, if this was the cue to get right and then nothing happens, well, then what do you do?
Well, I think they, to be fair, a lot of Christians take their cues from the text, which occasionally do point to, like, remember the crucifixion happens and there's supposed to be darkness for, I think it was 3 hours or something like that, and one of the texts. And although now we can calculate ahead of time by many years when the next eclipses, they can predict it. It's a totally reliable thing because we know it has everything to do with the orbit of the moon and the earth around the sun. So people still are in light of, so people during biblical times had no idea about the science and the mathematics behind calculating these things, but now we do, and it just shows they're still holding on to. It's like I don't know, like new wine, old wineskin kind of thing.
Well, you brought us right
they're still holding on to it.
You brought us right to one of the ones I wanted to get to next. So
Yep, yep, yep.
it's interesting because when people like me and others started like not clowning, but just letting church folk know y'all are tripping, then you started seeing some Christians actually get in on it and say, hey, let's not play ourselves. Let's not go out here prophesying gloom and doom, because if it doesn't happen. So then you started even seeing Christians trying to calm their own down. So this site, this person, somebody here, Kingdom Mixtapes, says this is Jesus responding to all of his people thinking that the eclipse was some uh you know some sign. But it's weird that
Hell
they
of a
got
Photoshop job.
yeah, it's cool. Basically, but in all
Low res
seriousness,
Jesus.
it's only going to get worse in this world. Get right, another get right one, but nobody knows the days, nobody knows the hour, not even Jesus himself. What's weird is I have another one I'll pull up in a second, but this one and another one, it's almost like they're trying to make it seem like this is all Christians' fault, as if Jesus never said anything to produce in Christians the kind of hysteria that you see when these things happen. According
That's a
to the
good
New
point.
Testament, isn't he the one that said the moon will, turn into blood, and earthquakes and rumors of war and he's the one that set people up for the hysteria. But now, because the church is so fatigued of this hysteria and it not panning out, now they got to make it seem like, why are you blaming Jesus for this? This is your fault.
Yeah.
We just thought the book was correct.
Right.
Our bad.
Yeah. And you see this guy here, he's holding up a Bible like, yo, I'm getting this from this source. I got it from the Bible. How
Yeah.
are you now going to come back and bash me and tell me I'm the one that's tripping?
I had non-Christian friends really tripping out over the eclipse. You know, really making a lot out of it, just some sort of ambiguous spiritual thing out of it. And this is, I don't know if you guys had, I'm not talking believers. I'm saying non-Christian friends who were, you got to get your energy aligned. We're like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like, what is
Yeah,
going
I
on?
saw a number of like new age type
Yeah.
energy fields in your chakras, or they don't have to get right with Jesus. You just got your celestial chiropractor's got to iron out your chakras.
Okay. We're going to start zooming through them now, because the same commentary can be said for most of these, but I do think they are worth pulling up for the people to see. This is how we really think, how we really live. Somebody here says, you think this is the 3 days of darkness the Bible talks about in Revelation?
Well, we're only missing 2 days, 23 hours, and about 57 and a half minutes. Otherwise, we nailed
Yeah.
it spot on.
I like the eyes. Like I guess you could put that behind any idiotic statement, and I guess it makes it more profound. The praying hands, the eyes.
Keep your
Yeah.
eyes open.
Watch and pray.
Watch
Watch and
exactly.
pray.
Watch and pray. That's what you deciphered it, Jay Witt. You might be. You're part of the team here. You deciphered the
The Rosetta Stone kind of thing of emojis.
Wow, but I mean, just think how you're living your life. Anytime something in the world happens, you have to find out what's in the book is this.
Well, now here's what you're
Yeah.
missing, Brady. Here's what you're missing so hard. 3 days is not 3 days. 3 days is symbolic. That's why, because, you just went into the ground on Friday night. You came out Sunday morning, but it's still 3 days because there's a deeper spiritual truth.
Okay.
So it is 3 days. It's just not 3 days in a context any of us can understand it. So who's to say it's wrong?
Okay.
Yeah.
It
It must suck to be on the brink of Armageddon for like hundreds of years. Like that must really suck. Because if you look at the history of the church, there almost every age there's somebody who thinks that we're on the brink of the end of the world.
It has been every single generation since the end of Mark.
Yeah.
Well, let's try to tie it in then. So somebody else says, what was interesting was you saw some Christians who had the hysteria, And some of them who didn't have the hysteria, they tried to be much more measured, but they still let their apocalyptic flag fly. So here goes somebody. The entire US is buzzing about the upcoming total solar eclipse being within the path of totality, etc. I cannot help but to think about the timing of Resurrection Sunday and the April 8th, 2024 eclipse this year. I don't believe in chance or coincidence. God is awesome.
What do you think are the
I love how
odds of those two events not happening on the same day?
How do you calculate that? Like,
I mean, I see what they're trying to do, and it would almost be a good point if the eclipse like happened on Easter, but it's a different date, and they see like it's just a miss. Like they guessed the wrong number and then chalked it up as in the win column.
Yeah, I just like the phrase "God is awesome." It's like the ketchup of phrases. You just put it on anything, and I guess it makes it taste good. Like,
it would have been
like she just she just said something totally incoherent and just said God is awesome. I guess that's like that just pulls it together like ketchup, you know.
I think it would have been a little. The ketchup would have been a little more tasty if Resurrection Sunday wasn't an entire 8 days before. Like,
yeah.
The eclipse happened on a Monday. Can you imagine if the Resurrection Sunday was on April 7th? That would have been a little more like juicy. There's like a whole 8 days in between the two.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, we talked about this before because when you're open to this kind of thing, anything's confirmation, right? Like, it could have been a month later. They'd be like, "Oh, like literally, they'd be like, we just celebrated Easter last month, you know, and now we have an eclipse, you know." Like that's how it works.
Yeah. And anybody who's watching, we are making fun a little bit because it is a little humorous, but we're just challenging the way that you have to think when you're in this kind of life, where you're looking for signs. You're looking for. I think I'm going to play that. Go to that one next. Let me see. Yep, this one. Rather than me say it, I'll let him say it. So this guy says, it's coming up now. Word to the wise, next week's eclipse is just that, an eclipse. Now, notice how he's trying to measure the expectation here. Nothing spooky, spiritual about it. Neither is there any biblical significance to it. Jesus teaches very clearly. This is what I had to jump on and respond to this person. Jesus teaches very clearly not to look for signs to confirm your faith, but rather look to the cross of Christ. That's all, folks.
That doesn't seem right.
Okay.
It doesn't. I thought Jesus spoke quite extensively about signs and wonders. But wait, is he saying Jesus is saying to look to the cross of Christ?
Well, he's not saying that Jesus is saying that. That's his advice.
Oh, so we need a comma in there to separate who's saying what. All right.
Yeah. Jesus didn't teach that you should look for. Now, I do think he's right in a sense. Signs, depends on which Jesus and which part of the gospel and which gospel. All right. Because in one sense, you have Jesus saying, if you don't believe me for my, if you don't believe my words, at least believe me for the works that I do. So in that sense, he did teach that signs were to confirm faith. But my comment to this person was, maybe you can, to some degree, say that Jesus taught that signs were not to confirm faith. But Jesus did teach you to look for signs to confirm his return. So even if you don't look for signs for confirmation of faith, what do you say?
He literally said earthquakes.
Right. He told them to look for signs of his return, of his return. Yeah. So how do you, once again, how do you discipline or chastise Christians for doing the very thing that Jesus conditioned them to do?
Well, part of it too is, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jay. Wait, sorry.
I was only going to say that this guy strikes me. Brady and I were commenting, I think it was last week, on we often at the top of Exit Strategy, we'll play various clips of just nonsense within Christianity. American evangelicalism. And as a Christian who wasn't, snake handling or whatever, you felt a constant need to, there was just the ongoing having to separate yourself from the crazy, like the crazy cousins of Christianity. And I feel like this guy, I feel like that's the sentiment that's underlying it. He's online, he's seeing all the crazy cousins going nuts about earthquakes and stuff, and he's just like, all right, I got to separate myself. We have to separate ourselves from this. So there's this constant pressure on you because you know that in some sense they're your cousins. You know what I mean? They're your relatives in this thing. So you have to, I don't know, you're trying to balance it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for cutting you off, man.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say there's one of the problems with not carrying your pocket Bible around with you at all times is people will know. I think Jesus said something about signs, and I believe it was the end of Mark where he said, signs will follow those who believe. And it wasn't cosmic signs like these kinds of signs were signs that were worked by humans, and it was supposed to be a demonstration of the faith. And they just remember signs, something. Well, I can't say for sure it wasn't that, and it kind of gives them a license to just make up whatever sentence they want as long as it contains the word sign in it. And they got kind of like partial credit for quoting the Bible.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jay Witt, you talked about Christians wanting to separate themselves from their crazy cousins. I can't think of a crazier cousin than this one.
Oh yeah, I saw her. Yeah, that's crazy. I love this account. Religion is cancer. That's a great.
It's a great group on Facebook. So they got Marjorie Taylor Greene here, and she says to the press, God is sending America strong signs to tell us to repent. Earthquakes and eclipses and many more things to come. I pray that our country listens.
Now,
Shane,
in her defense,
okay.
I would like to give her credit for not blaming the Jewish space tectonics for the earthquake. She showed a little restraint there.
As far as we know, we haven't heard any leaked.
That's right.
Any leaked audio yet. But yeah, what can you say? We've said so much about it already, but this is God sending America, and America strong signs, not the rest of the world. This is America strong signs that America needs to repent. And then she says this.
I mean, but there's nothing supernatural about an eclipse. Like
can you cause one? Can you cause one, Jay Witt?
Okay.
No, you can't. Can you?
Eclipses are as we can reliably calculate when the next one, and they already have done it. They've done it already.
NASA's calculated out to like the year 3000, and somebody had actually shared a post. It was a newspaper. The last one of the 20th century was in 1979. I think they had a 1970, 1979, and they had said this is going to happen. There's not going to happen again until 2016 and then 2024. So 4 decades ago, 5 decades ago, they told us this was coming now. Like the only people that have made accurate predictions are the scientists who are using math to tell us when it was going to show up.
Well, think about this with the math. What's going to happen at some point is the moon is going to get into a position where it's not going to cause that eclipse effect anymore because it's too far. I forget what the actual science behind it was or math behind it was, but we're seeing it now, and we're going to keep seeing it, like you said, up until the year 3000 or whatever. But at some point, the way the moon orbits and the way we orbit, it's not going to have the exact same effect. So Earth won't always see the eclipse the way that we can see it now. So those people won't be able to do the same thing that we're doing in terms of using it as a sign.
So you believe that
you have to ask yourself, does
exist?
Say again?
You believe that the moon does exist?
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
But you have to ask yourself, what did an eclipse mean back when there were animals alive that are now extinct that may have seen it? Like basically, if a tree falls in the forest,
it was a sign to them that they were going to be soon extinct. They just didn't heed the sign.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like when you have a natural phenomenon happening like this, that's totally predictable and mathematical. Like, I mean, what is she even saying? God is saying us. Is he sending us a sign? I mean, he's sending us a sign via something that's this predictable. Like you say, 4 decades, 5 decades ago, they were able to predict it. I mean, so basically, were they predicting, like, were they speaking, were they the oracle of God 5 decades ago, 6 decades ago?
Right. They
One has
predicted
to
that
ask
God was
himself.
going to speak.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, one thing I was going to point out here is, and many more things to come. So she's actually bought herself room for whatever freakish thing happens to happen. She can say, didn't I tell you many more things to come?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is the world's worst psychic cold reading right here. There's going to be other stuff.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, she's following the footsteps of Christ. You know, he's predicting that there are going to be earthquakes, and apparently there are, what do you say, 55 of them a day. Like he's saying those are the signs of his coming. 55 a day, right?
55 a
All
day.
right. I got to play this. We'll do two more. This last one, well, not last one, second to last. This one just kind of broke my heart a little bit because he's one of my favorite people. um, but I'll just let it play.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
God is sending us
You
a
don't have
message.
to apologize.
Well, if it hurts anybody else's heart like it hurt mine, I'm sorry.
God is sending us a message, and it's a fascinating 1-2 punch we've had so far. The Lord knows where we're headed, and only God knows where we're headed. So we're being forced to deal with powers higher than ourselves, whether we like it or not. We better open our eyes and look at the reality of what's going on. This Amen. It's not a joke. God is.
So the GOAT, Denzel Washington, wants you to know.
The goat
Now, doesn't
said
this
it's not a
throw a
joke.
wrench in the whole QAnon? Everyone in Hollywood is in on the cabal, the blood drinking cabal. I thought Denzel was supposed to be in on this, and now that's like out of whack with that theory.
I don't know if his name was named was he on the Epstein list or something like that?
I don't think he was on that. I just
think
know like every time I know poor Tom Hanks and Oprah are on it for sure. And then I thought all the other names were just like random, whatever.
Right. No, but one thing QAnon loves though, they love when somebody who's in starts saying things that validate their worldview. Like he's in it and he knows that this is true.
So he's dropping subtle truth bombs on us.
Yeah.
When you put that music behind it, I guess I got to get that in the clip for Ictopod. You got to have the somebody in the background sounding like a Hans Zimmer soundtrack or something.
Well, that's what we talked about last time, Brady, was how you use the little emotional manipulation with the.
But to have Denzel just co-signing this, like, it's not a joke. God's sending us signs, and we better get like, come on, like, really. Now, see, I was the kind of Christian, even as a Christian, I would have looked at this and said, this is sensationalism. There's no, maybe I didn't believe the Bible as much as I thought I did, because even when it came to things like that, signs and wonders and wars and rumors of wars and earthquakes, I always took that stuff with like, so even as a Christian, I interpreted that as, so that's really not a sign because that stuff happens all the time.
All the time, yeah.
But here you have someone like a Denzel, like, no, this is a sign. The earthquake, because he's particularly talking about the earthquake, not the eclipse, when he on this clip right here.
It would be fun to like look through the news from previous years when there were eclipses in America and just see how many evangelicals were saying this kind of stuff. I'm sure they were probably busy talking about the Lord. He's trying to tell us something. I guess every time there's an eclipse, he's trying to tell us something. Why didn't he just tell us? Like, why does he stop trying to tell us and just say it? Like, I guess, it's kind of ridiculous, Who
was a famous podcaster in 1782? I'll look him
up. I said one more after this, but if you bear with me, two more. There's one more. We can do this real quick. I just think this one will convince you guys that you really are tripping. And like Denzel said, this is not a joke. I don't even know why you guys are playing around. When you see this will convince you.
I'm not going to dignify that with a response.
Come on now. The earthquake was 4.8. The eclipse happened on 4/8. And if you turn to Exodus 4:8, the Lord said, if they do not believe you or pay attention to you, the first sign, they may believe the second sign.
The only problem with that is weren't added until much later after Exodus was written.
But
it's not like the verses.
But an omniscient God knew that
Oh gosh, I'm bailing out of this.
Well, don't we need a number 2 in there somewhere to refer us to Exodus? Like, how do we know that it's not supposed to be Matthew? How do we know it's not supposed to be like one of the second Kings, 2 Samuel, 2 Chronicles?
I don't know why Exodus 4:8 ends up being the verse, but I guess because it talks about a first sign and a second sign.
Is the ease. It's the earthquake, eclipse, Exodus.
Oh, I didn't even peep that, yo.
Oh.
Now, come on, yo.
Yeah.
This is
yeah. It's alliteration, right?
This has got to be God,
right,
yo.
Yep.
Wait, A, B, C,
God
D,
only speaks using alliteration.
E is the 5th letter of the alphabet, and 5.
Yeah.
So
if you multiply 5 times 5, and then you add in 3, you get 28. And then if you take off the 8, there's the missing 2. There's the 2 right there.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'll take a lobotomy before I listen to this conversation anymore.
Now, all right. So you got, is this like the plagues, or is this where God is like giving Pharaoh signs or something like that? Exodus 4. What's going on in Exodus 4?
Yeah, isn't this when he sent Moses to bring the people out?
Moses' miraculous power. This is
when he puts his hand in his cloak or something like that.
Yeah. So Moses is trying to figure out, why will the people listen to me? And God says, I'm going to give you these signs. If they don't believe the first sign, they might believe the second sign that I sent you. So,
and then he goes on to harden his heart. So they.
Well, no, this was, how will the people of Israel know that?
Oh yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, because his hand was the sign to them. Yes.
All right, last one. We may not get the ends tonight. I don't know. You guys tell me if you guys want to still get the ends. But when I say you guys, I'm talking to the viewers in the chat. I've got some super chats I forgot to read too. Somebody said, the Apostle Paul warned people about false prophets. Today, false prophets are warning people about Apostle Paul.
Hold on, I gotta unpack that one in my head for a second.
Well, they wanted to bookend it with Apostle Paul, that's for sure.
Yeah, because they could have said the Bible or anything, right? But I think about what we just did on Sunday, Jay Witt, right? Where we're going through the book of Romans and we're warning people that Paul was basically just butchering the Hebrew Bible and, trying to create a new religion and, practicing syncretism and all that. So I don't know if this was directed at us or just at anyone, but I think the shoe fits here. He warned people about false prophets. And now anybody who warns people about the Apostle Paul, they are the false prophets warning people.
What's an example of a warning about Paul? I haven't heard this one at all.
Well, like I said, this past on Sundays, every other Sunday on this podcast, we're going through the book of Romans with an eye for deconstruction, with a skeptical eye.
Gotcha.
And so I don't know if this is referring to us or not. This person.
Oh, so this might be like you guys specifically here they're talking about.
It could be. This person is a friend of mine on Facebook.
It's possible, but I mean, they got the wrong vocation. I mean, I'm not a prophet. I mean, if he made maybe if he got my vocation right, I'd take it serious.
So you
Right.
guys are like
Just
internet famous for being false prophet. If I send you each a Bible, would you autograph it for me and send it back?
yeah.
Return postage?
That would get us in
I
hell. We'd be adding words to the word of God if we did that.
yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
don't predict anything, but that Christians will continually come up with conspiracy theories. I guess if I'm a false prophet, that's about the only thing I'm predicting right now.
so Marjorie Taylor
Well,
Greene told you there'll be many more things to come. So
I would be
Yeah.
remiss if I didn't bring this one up. My folks are in the ministry, and they refer to it as like the prophetic ministry. And I've tried to get some clarity because usually when you hear the word prophecy, we're thinking, all right, you're making a future prediction, so it's something that we can evaluate whether or not it comes to pass. And it's not that
Mm,
kind of prophecy. It's the prophecy where you don't do that. But they had managed to tie Israel into this. And so they had the earthquake, the eclipse, and then just blatantly sort of lied about, because Biden had said, well, we need you guys to make some promises about, a ceasefire or let us get aid in there or something. We're going to condition.
be more
um,
strategic in how you conduct the war,
Yeah, so
more
it
careful.
was, but we're not going to keep sending you bombs and missiles if you're just going to use them indiscriminately.
Hmm.
And the message they sent out on Facebook was now the American president is threatening Israel. And in the days of that, plus the eclipse,
Hmm.
plus the bridge falling
Mm.
over, plus the earthquake, and like, so half the stuff is, or 25% of the stuff they're just making up and misrepresenting what actually
Wow.
happened on top
Wow.
of the things that don't require any spiritual insight. It just kind of, I mean, the whole thing was foobar.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds
You
me
can
of the who is it?
go ahead.
There's like an Ali G clip where he's like uh talking to some computer scientists about if the computer can calculate 99999, and that the guy is sitting over there like
Yeah.
his eyes are glazing over. He's like, without blowing up, like, can a computer do that without blowing up? And basically, the point here is that like Christians, they're just they're just running up the tab. It's like they're eating at a restaurant. It's like, all right, I'm just add that on, and you're going to have this grand total, and then you're going to present people with this. This is a huge platter of a sign to the world, and I guess apparently to the church too, and it's to everything. If it means everything, it doesn't mean shit. like,
Right.
Mm.
like if it means everything to everybody, it doesn't
Yeah.
actually mean anything. That's the problem with this.
Mhm.
You've given us screenshots of so many people trying to uh, to coerce people into believing these signs mean something very specific or whatever. But they're all doing different things with it.
Mm.
They're all saying different vague things, right? It's like,
Mm.
what does it actually mean? And so I guess it means I don't know. I don't even know. Like,
It means whatever
depending
you
on
need
what,
it to mean to continue
Whatever you need it
believing.
to mean. Yeah.
that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy talk.
Yeah.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah, I keep saying like we need a book, the dictionary is a repository of words and what all those words mean. And then we need a repository of a list of all the different things that's a sign. Like if you see a bird
Hmm.
clutching a snake, that's got to be a sign, right? But then that has to
Hmm.
explain what the sign means
Yeah. Yeah.
because yeah,
A
everyone's
legend.
just
You need some
making
kind
up.
of legend to figure out.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
of it, it's an episode of The Office where Michael Scott, the manager of the office, he's trying to rate his employees to see who's going to be his replacement. And by the
Mm.
end of the day, because he's got no real way to rate them, he's giving out
Yeah.
gold stars, he's giving out check marks, he's giving out all kinds of, just give this person this, and the girl he's having do all this, he's asking her, so who's ahead? She's like, well, you gave him a gold star, you gave him a check, you gave him a green light, you gave him a.
Yeah.
He's like, well, what does that mean? She's like, well, you came up with the system. But he says to her, look to see if there's a legend. Like, wait, what? You would have the legend, not me. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
did this
exactly.
off the cuff, and you want me to figure out what these things mean. And so
Yeah, I think of the
yeah.
screenshot that you had where they had just dates, like numbers on it and stuff. It's like once you start entering that kind of stuff into it, I mean, it's endless, right?
I had many more. I
When
had
you can
many
take
more like that. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can take a verse and you say, okay, it's sort of the date is 4-8, and then there's a verse that's 4-8. Like where are we going with this? We're going to be looking at license plates. The next thing like
I would I would
where's
settle
this
for a
going?
legend that tells us when we encounter some numbers and we
Mm.
have to make the numbers interact. How do you know whether you got to add, multiply, subtract, or divide? Just I just start with that.
Mm.
Just make them interact in
Just make them
some
interact.
random
Yeah.
way.
Like to the person who's watching, this show is particularly for those who are on the verge of deconstructing, deconverting. Like when you think about this is what people have been doing to get you to believe and to string you along. That's one of the saddest parts about this for me is this is how Christians string people along or allow themselves to be strung along to keep believing a little bit more, keep believing a little bit longer because hey, look how close we are. That one day with us is like 1,000 days and all that kind of, just a little bit longer. Just keep on. Just let me drop another breadcrumb, another clue, another sign. Let me just interpret this right for you. And before you know it, 30 years of your life is going by. 40 years of your life is going by. Your life is going by. And you've been led around by your faith. I don't want to say by bad actors, because I think some of these people, they believe it too, but they have no good reason to believe it.
Yeah.
It
Is this the
seems
kind
to
of
me
life you
that
want to live?
when it's that many decades that have gone past, it's almost like the gambler fallacy. Like they're emotionally invested in it, and they
The
go,
sunk
I
cost.
can't. Even if
Yeah.
it's not right, that means I wasted all that time. I might as well just waste the rest because otherwise it was all for naught. And so it's kind of like an emotional commitment to a thing that they know doesn't work, but they've invested too much already.
What did William Lane Craig say, right? He kind of got in trouble with the counter apologist for saying this. He said, if it's even a 1 in a million chance that this is true, because the gospel is so good as a story, if it's a 1 in a million chance that it's true, I'm going to take that chance, 1 in a million, because it's just that good of a story.
And you have to wonder whether his appraisal that it's that good came first or whether the waiting made it be that. Like I mean, it doesn't strike me as being that much better than many other stories. It's a decent story. Okay, we'll give it that. We'll say, all right, perhaps it's a decent story. And maybe we'll put that on there. Perhaps it's a decent story, but to act like it's worth, hinging, having senators or whatever getting up and saying the kind of nonsense. Like, I mean, really? Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
I guess this is a peculiarly American phenomenon, I want to assume, right? Or is this a global? It seems like evangelicalism here in America is really going nuts with this stuff. Or you think it's just all around the
This is
globe?
interesting. I went out to lunch last week with a buddy that lives here, but he's from Australia, and he was talking because I was asking him what was the pandemic like over there, and he said there wasn't quite the social division that required like here people were doing just dumb stuff because the other side was doing the opposite. And he said, I got to warn you, though, you guys are like importing some of your craziness over to us. So, like people are kind of getting on board with this stuff that didn't used to be here, but it's coming over the airways.
Wow. People ask me, like, why not just let people believe? What's so bad? What's so harmful? I'm like, I mean, look what's going on. Look at what people are willing to believe. Look at what people are willing to deny, be it science or reason or their fellow man. Look what people are willing to believe. Look what people are willing to deny. That's dangerous.
Yeah, the legislature in Texas has been openly speaking out against I don't know if they got their words crossed and meant to say critical race theory, but they said critical thinking. We don't want critical thinking being taught in our schools.
Wow, that's great. That's like a Freudian slip. That's
But
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
it's
Yeah.
Texas or Florida. It could go either way with those two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey Shane, I don't want to take any more of your time, but I want to thank you for your time and for your mind and for your tact. Just
Yeah.
in being able to not wanting to offend, not that we want to offend either, but I wonder if Jay Witt and I were played nicer tonight because you were here.
No.
Are you guys usually mean?
Not mean. We just, we have fun.
I only wish that Jesus would hurry up and just come back and take all of these morons. just come and get these guys out of here,
Just as I,
And then
just as
maybe
I,
we can have
just as I try to give us credit for being nicer tonight, Jay Witt goes and insults the people.
I mean, come quickly, Lord Jesus, right? Come quickly. Come, Jesus. When you have atheists wishing that he would just come and take evangelicals out of here,
I don't know if you guys can. I'll try to hold it up. I think that light.
Right there. I see it right there. Up, back a little bit. Okay, yep.
Says if the rapture really does take place during the eclipse on Monday, come Tuesday, we should see things begin to improve.
No, exactly. My sentiments exactly. My sentiments exactly.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you finally be able to run a decent country here,
All right, Shane, we're gonna let you go, man. Thanks so much for coming through. And
My pleasure.
when Desperado comes out, definitely come back on and we'll chat it up.
Sounds good. All right. Great talking with you guys. Jay Witt, be cool. Good meeting you.
All right, you too, man. Good to meet you.
All right, so it's 9:21. We typically go an hour and a half, 2 hours. Do you think we can do ends in the next half hour, or do you want to save them for next week?
I know you were getting your reading and stuff, and I'm somewhat exhausted. I don't know. It's
fine.
been a
No,
light
no, no,
night.
no. Yeah,
it's
that's
been
fine.
a late night, but I don't know. But I'm willing to
I like what we did. I think we should save Peter ends till next week. Let me get to these super chats.
Mm-hmm.
And let me make sure I don't see any others. We definitely appreciate the super chats. It definitely helps with everything that we're trying to do. Matthew Williams super chatted, said, people always asking me, what's your secret? Why are you so happy? I tell them, because the spirit of Ichabod lives in my heart. Hallelujah. Thank you for that $19.99 super chat, Matthew. Mo Wheat, $4.99 super chat. Appreciate you. I give you this because of your uncommon favor. Go back to the Dawn Staley clip at the beginning. Thank you so much. Trying to see if there's anything else here. I think that's it. Yeah. So yeah, much appreciation for those who rock with us. If you get a chance, come back through and just drop a comment on the video outside of the super chat. That definitely helps with the algorithm. Like if you have not liked, subscribe if you have not subscribed. And if you have any bones to pick with anything that we said, drop it in the chat, not the live chat, but the chat on the video. We do read those. And if anything stands out, we definitely will address. If we offended anybody, we don't mean to offend, but we do like to agitate, because I think that's what it takes sometimes to get people thinking. And Jay Witt, any last words?
No, I'm good. I'll let them take this off. Oh no. Yeah. No.
Much love to you guys. Thanks for coming through and rocking with us. We'll see you guys back here next Tuesday. Peace.
Indeed. See you guys.